Okay, welcome. So this is COM 412. This is that COM 412 show. You already got the intro. Today we're going to be talking about gender roles in sitcoms and how those representations have created narratives, which in turn have impacted their audience. So to begin, I will introduce Diana, who will talk about our first theme and the 3 vocab terms that belong to it. Thank you.
And good afternoon, classmates of Communication Studies 412. We're moving on forward now to the next segment of our group presentation, which will consist of first satellite narratives, followed by kernel narratives, last but not least, narrative regime. And what better way to start this segment off by having my esteemed colleague, Kristen, to get things underway. Thank you all for your time.
Hi everyone. All right, so satellite narratives are narratives that are used in sitcoms that portray the female leads, which would often be the wife or the daughters of a sitcom. They portray the female leads as more dominant over the male leads. To further elaborate and give you a better idea of this, from the article "The Patriarchal Beast: Gender Role Portrayals in Sitcoms Featuring Mismatched Couples," they specifically used an example from the show Kings of Queens. In this show, you have Carrie, played by Leah Remini. And her character, she's a legal secretary. She's really feisty. She's really sassy. She's shown a lot of times making fun of her husband, Doug, who's played by Kevin James. She makes fun of his weight. She mocks him. She ignores him. Doesn't listen to him. She kind of just marches to the beat of her own drum. And for the term that we connected this to would be patriarchy, because a lot of the times, the reason that they're called satellite narratives is because these events that happen in the episodes are so minor that you would kind of look past them. You wouldn't really notice them too much. So we related this to patriarchy, where that executives and writers of sitcoms will do this as a way to not threaten the masculine and patriarchal ideas that we have become so used to in our society. So next we'll move on to our second term for our second theme, which will be kernel narrative, and that will be shown by Diana.
So while the focus of satellite narratives is on the female, kernel narratives is the complete opposite. It focuses on the male. It's a major plot event in an episode that portrays male leads as dominant over the female leads. This then consequently, narratives take over the plot of a storyline. As we see here, the kernel metaphor is being used here to describe the male, which himself is seen as a kernel. Through his character development, we're able to see the male continuously growing and expanding, something that started so small that just takes over the whole thing, which is kind of like a kernel, which at the end it takes the whole form when finished. We have the term of a breadwinner here, which is what we often see. He starts off being introduced as a breadwinner, and it's also accompanied by negative concepts such as misogyny, patriarchy, and sexism. And even at times when the concept is seen as positive, we still have the female character being overpowered by the male when he saves the day and is a hero. In the article about gender role portrayals, Walsh references women as being contained, something that we continuously see. In Bewitched, we have this woman who has literal superpowers. She's a witch. She's married to a normal man, yet he continuously confines what she can and cannot do within the whole family. Another thing would be Sex and the City, which is what we all know as a women show, and we continuously see Big, who, even when he's not physically present in that episode, he continuously takes over the whole plot and determines what Carrie is and cannot do. And even in Mad Men, we are instantly introduced by men running everything, with women having little to nothing to say. The next term we have is narrative regime, and that is
So now I will be introducing the narrative regime. Erin Lee Mock is the author of the article that I chose called The Horror of Honey and Home, The Perils of Post-War Family Love in the Domestic Sitcom. He created this term by combining two well-known words, narrative and regime, and he uses it to explain that the public's knowledge about the characters off set is what they expect to see them on the set and vice versa. So he uses the example of Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball and their troubled marriage. So through the tabloids and the media, it was exposed that they actually had a lot of conflict in their marriage. In all of these pictures, it's a scene of conflict, which is common in every episode of Lucy. So that is why the show was such a hit, is because the audience expected them to have conflict, they loved the conflict, and so the show succeeded. The term that I chose to relate to narrative regime is altercasting. The course text says that altercasting is a concept that highlights how we talk to one another and also how we act towards one another, and it puts people in roles. So others reinforce our identity by adding to it and also restricting it. We don't have to accept that identity, but if we go against it, we will be negatively judged for it. So for that example, for another example to put those two terms together, narrative regime and altercasting, Ellen DeGeneres is somebody who went against both of those. Before Ellen was the Ellen that we know and love on the talk show host, she was in her own sitcom called Ellen. In the 4th season, she decides to come out as gay, the character. This is also around the time she's coming out as gay as in real life. Well, it actually backfired on her. Her popular shows, the ratings started going down, and it was canceled after the next season because people didn't like that she wasn't playing the role that they altercasted on her, and it was her original narrative regime. So now I would like to show a clip to also further demonstrate this, of Neil Patrick Harris as Barney in the sitcom How I Met Your Mother. He's seen as a womanizer, obviously loves women, so we'll go ahead and play that.
Massage. After Shannon and I talked, I nailed her. It's not long-distance relationships. I really think they can work. There's Lisa in Madrid, there's Erica in Tokyo, there's Laura in Denmark, and Kelly on 34th Street. Guys, I just tasted an amazing caterer. You already have a caterer.
So just to go along with that, in real life, Neil Patrick Harris came out as gay, and he came out as that he's married. So it goes against his altercasted identity and also his narrative regime.